All right. Well, welcome to the Founders Fire podcast. I'm so excited about our guest today and excited to welcome you back. We want to rekindle that fire, keep that fire burning, and get it blazing. That's going to happen today when you get to meet Alicia Collins. She is a true dog enthusiast and the proud owner of Canine Activity Club, nestled in the heart of wine country in Northern California, such a lovely part of the country. With a deep-rooted love for dogs and a vision to create a haven for them, she embarked on her entrepreneurial venture in 2014 by opening Canine Activity Club. Since its inception, Canine Activity Club has evolved into the premier destination for dog care in Sonoma County, largely due to Alicia's dedication and commitment to excellence. Year after year, the community has given Canine Activity Club the honor of being the top-rated facility in the area and being voted the #1 daycare and boarding facility in Sonoma County. With a love for all things business, she's expanding her dog business in new markets and growing her portfolio with home services and a million other things. So I am proud to present to you today, Alicia Collins. First of all, longtime client and friend. I admire you so much just as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as a mother, as a leader. I mean, so many great qualities. One of which, this will sound so self-serving, but I'll say one of which is that you were like, "Hey, I want to get with a coach. I want to get strategy. I want to see things, in a different way and bounce ideas off someone." So I think that is really a defining characteristic about you, is that you're a learner. It's that you will push yourself to see things from different vantage points and whatnot. But maybe we should rewind a little and go back some amount of time before we knew each other. Talk to us about, how do you feel like you started forming some of those habits? Because I know we all have some genetics that make us who we are.
Yeah.
We also have some choices that make us who we are too. Maybe tell us about prior to getting into business for yourself, or something back in there of like how you maybe headed in this direction of entrepreneur and business owner.
I think I'm just, a hustler. I think from ever. Yeah, I don't know a time that I wasn't a little entrepreneur, whether it was like making purses when I was a kid or making doll clothes and selling doll clothes at 12. Or, I was always wanting to generate income somehow. And so, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, so that's cool. My dad and mom had their own business, and I worked for them for a while, but I always did other stuff at the same time. And I look back, I don't know that I've ever have had just one job, right? Like there's always, hey, what else could I be doing? A drive that's to do more, maybe,
Yeah.
First, of course, when I was younger and had little kids, it's, to pay the bills, right? How can we capitalize on skill set so that it's not just the hourly wage,
Right.
but also extra independent solopreneur type things, right? I worked for myself, but I also worked for others at the same time. And then parlayed it into a dog boarding and training business that's about to have its 10-year anniversary this year, which
Come
is pretty
on. Come
neat.
on.
I know,
Yeah.
time flies, right? Time flies, but
Congratulations.
thank you. But I was a business owner before this one, and I think what's different is in these last 10 years, I have wanted to own multiple different businesses and be able to kind of grow more out of the solopreneur where I have to be the only one here all the time. And the business is hyper dependent on me. And then it's really, I own my own job, basically. And which is not a terrible place to be. Like, there's still some flexibility around kids, and you generate a little more income. You work more. I think I work more hours than an average
Sure.
40, 9 to 5 kind of role. But now I just love business. I love tweaking it and seeing what I can do to make it better. And it means branching into completely different business models and types of business, but it still kind of stays in this kind of niche service to community, service to neighbors, home, dogs, people kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to believe in it. If you don't really believe in it, people know. And so maybe we'll go this direction for just a second. What would be your kind of like I don't know if matrix is the right word, but what would be your checklist if you're thinking about a new business idea or
Yeah.
it's presented to you, you're like, these ones I tend to like, and these are maybe ones to avoid. You just maybe some people who are listening to us are thinking about, I've got the 401k, I'm
Yeah.
48 years old. I think I need to be done with this job and I want to head in a direction, but I don't know how maybe to assess a good opportunity. What have you seen work for you in that way?
I mean, I think there is something about creating, I call it a deal box. I got that from another one of my groups, right? Are the parameters that are the perfect, is it over so much per year? Is it in the industry that I've got a general concept in so that I feel like my current skill set actually crosses over?
Mhm.
Learning from scratch is doable for sure, but it takes time. So I don't necessarily want to take a year to ramp up and completely learn something new. For me, is it something where I can have a friend or family member or somebody that I trust that's going to help me run it? Because I really don't necessarily, this business took an immense amount of personal and family time when I first started it. And I'm not willing to do that level of time again. So I want to make sure I have somebody else who I can rely on that's willing to be an operator of that. So finding the parameters first and then being a stickler about them, because I'm one of those that everything seems exciting, right? Oh, look, my friend, he's got a chimney sweep business for sale. And I'm like, oh, how do I
Hey,
make that work?
yeah,
Right. So
yeah.
who can make chimney sweeping exciting, right? But and I recently bought the most one of the businesses I recently bought is a moving company, and I hate moving. Like nobody likes moving. So
Right.
but I like the moving business, and I like it's a
Mhm.
niche market. It does primarily seniors moving into senior living, and I can see how many baby boomers are going to be going that direction. So a
Yeah,
lot of it is a little bit of a gut instinct, and I think if you
yeah,
spend too much time
yeah,
researching, then you're doing more researching than doing,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you would be better off finding something, a low barrier to entry.
Mhm.
It's not a huge commitment. You're not spending $500,000 on the business, and you
Right.
can get your feet wet while you keep your other job.
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting anybody risk their livelihood,
Right,
in the
right.
beginning, but you find your own deal box. It's a real personal thing. And for me, it's what problem does this solve?
Mhm.
I'm launching a couple new online businesses this year, which I've never done before and had to learn a lot. So that's really fun for me, but also it's to solve a problem that I feel like people will pay for.
Yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
that's the biggest drive for me, I think, is figuring out what it's not necessarily what's going to be the next biggest thing, but what's going to be a consistent thing,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you
let's
know?
talk. I love that you said that because I feel like that is the thinking that gets a lot of people in trouble. And I usually refer to it as something like home run thinking. It's like, hey, if this one thing works, it's going to change everything forever. And that does not set us up, for a good future. And yeah, sometimes people do get those, but that's not a great model. And it's probably not a great model just even relationally, but kind of more of that incremental approach of, this for this season, this fits and it will get me from point A to point B. But you were also
Yeah.
talking about kind of the idea of, hey, I might be able to start something and initiate it, but I'm not necessarily the person who wants to sit there and manage that thing. Maybe just share with us a little bit what you're looking for when you find maybe it could be a subject matter expert that person is great at that thing, or it could just be a skill set that is this is the implementer. They're not going to innovate. They're not going to think up a
Yeah.
bunch of new stuff, but they will just get it done. How do you come across those folks, and is there any rhyme or reason to that to that effort?
There probably is some rhyme or reason. It doesn't it doesn't come to me first. It usually is more of a really neat person or a person in my life that I care about
Mhm.
that wants to branch out because they've seen me do it for a long time. So they want to branch out into self-employment or, away from the 9 to 5. And I'm like, be careful what you wish for because you might have more work.
Right.
But you get some flexibility around it. And then I tend to look for businesses that I think would coincide with the skill set, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the moving company is a really good example of that, because my best friend from when we were literally in junior high, we've been friends
Mhm.
forever. Very, super skilled person, to double work all the time, is running a large marketing sales department at a big wig facility, and then also has been a wedding coordinator for 20 years or something. If you can manage weddings and
Come
the
on.
emotions and the dynamics in a wedding and the mothers of the brides and all the
Right.
things, and
Right.
you can problem solve like that, you've developed a huge skill set that crosses over into other category, other businesses. And I didn't even realize how close, moving does like line up with that,
Yeah.
day of people
Yeah.
calling out, you show up to with everything measured out of what's supposed to be there, and they
Right.
throw last minute stuff, or nobody actually packed like that,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
But the skill set crosses over really nicely into something
Mhm.
like that. And you can, I mean, I love the idea of loving what you do, and the whole, you love what you do, you never work a day in your life kind of thing. And I
Mhm.
think there is an element of loving being good at something,
Mhm.
and loving freedom,
Yeah.
and loving, things. It's not like, I mean, it'd be hard pressed to make moving a real sexy,
Mhm.
job that everybody loves doing, because it's
Sure.
one of those things.
Sure.
It's a chore for
Yeah.
most people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or my fiance, who's doing a appliance repair business, right? And he's like, I'm just problem solving all the time. Like, it's
Mhm.
hard to make appliance repair sexy,
Yeah.
but everybody has appliances,
That's
and the
right.
freedom of having a service that's going to be needed forever, and that in itself, drives um drives a feeling of goodwill, versus having to, feel like I love boating, so I need to be in a boat business. Like, that's a
Yeah.
very narrow
Yeah.
mindset, and it's
Yeah.
hard to, you're going to end up most of the time, in my opinion, most of the time, just unfulfilled.
Yeah. And you're probably going to ruin your hobby, because you love boating,
Yeah.
and then you're going to try to be in a boating business, and now you hate the business of boating, and then you're like, dang it, I don't get to do the thing I want to do anyway. I should have just kept it as a hobby. But yeah, I feel like it's important for everybody out there who's kind of thinking in terms of like launching or starting a business, to have a set of parameters, like you said, a deal box, but also to not go too far afield from where you already are. It's fine to learn new things, but if you're starting from zero, that could be daunting, and maybe you wind up losing a lot of momentum and maybe some advantages that you naturally have. You mentioned family or close friends, other people that you kind of already know and trust. I think that kind of goes to the importance of our network, of the people that we know, taking time to invest in people. And that everything is always about return on investment, or a dollar, or this or that, but it's like we're
Yeah.
humans and whatnot. So maybe talk a little bit about you were mentioning earlier, being a mom, and there's kids, but there's also the business, and the business is kind of like a kid. In fact, the business can sometimes be
Mhm.
like a toddler, and oh my gosh. What
Yeah.
are some ways that you've found that help? No, I don't think anyone solved that equation for sure. But there are certainly ways that we learn over time to balance a little better, maybe than at the beginning. What have you found has been helpful in kind of balancing work and life in that way?
I mean, I think I have 5 kids, 4 still at home on the property, 2 are still minors. I'm slowly progressing through, you know, the
Yeah,
progress of getting everybody where they're supposed to be. And
yeah,
I think you just have to stay really flexible
yeah,
and forgiving, because and have some good resources and backup, because I mean, as of, today at, let's see what time it is, an hour ago, I've got 2 kids that had to be picked up from school early. One still needs to go to her football game. Like, I'm doing the standard mom juggle
yeah.
in between, video conferences and different stuff. So I have great I have great backup
Hmm.
most of the time. And if I don't, I cancel things and
Hmm.
I apologize, and I'm
Hmm.
really, transparent about, hey,
Yeah,
I planned on this today, but my day's falling apart. And
yeah, yeah,
I prioritize as much, getting the stuff done for the kids or the pets. If I have a last minute dog emergency, which
right.
happens, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's
yeah,
at work or home, that comes first. And it means marketing stuff, sales calls, team meetings, management
Mhm.
meetings,
Mhm.
and the era of not Google, Zoom is so awesome because
Right.
now,
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
a Zoom meeting from the coffee shop in my
Yeah.
car the other day.
Right. Right.
And no, I wasn't, pre-dressed and all put together and
Sure.
as I wanted to be, but I'm just, trying to get
Mhm.
it done. And I
Yeah.
think, I think it's that mom skill set's pretty great. I'm
Yeah.
sure just parenting in general does that, which is you're just used to juggling a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And I can't do it all the time. So
Yeah.
sometimes I cancel stuff
Yeah.
and I say, sorry, but I tried. Let's
Yeah.
reschedule. And if somebody needs to cancel on me, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know.
I think it probably goes without saying that the value of saying no is important, and being able to say
Yeah.
no. Yeah. And to own that. On the other hand, if people are in a service business or industry, they can kind of get into the people pleasing mode, which is a great recipe for burnout and no boundaries.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I feel like that's something that all business owners, whether you're early stage, you're in the middle, or you're thinking about maybe selling it or doing something else, it's like, hey, really, and even from the standpoint of business systems, all a system is a decision-making tool. It's what do you say no to
Yeah.
and what do you say yes to? As you've kind of grown in your business stature, no longer startup mode, many businesses in play, and you're kind of looking at the future and whatnot, how do you kind of look at, okay, this is a business that I would want to get into because it allows me to have an experience that I want to have versus this is a business I want to get into, which maybe pays for the other things that I want to do. I don't love it. I
Yeah.
don't hate it. But like you said, it's an important business, maybe like the moving company, or you're talking about your fiance doing the repair. And it's like, well, it's not going to be glamorous and awesome, but people need it. We can do a good job at it. You feel good about it at the end of the day. It's what we call just honest work. When you're maybe getting out of startup mode and you're kind of in your stride, what would you say are kind of your priorities in terms of this is something I'm not going to stretch for that I would have earlier on, or this is
Yeah.
something that I would be open to that I wouldn't have been open to later on? What's that kind of mid-stage mindset that you see?
Open to business. Well, I mean, before I answer that question, I think
Mhm.
part of it is the decision making of being able to let go of some of the decisions and let go of some of the tasks.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I really did work 7 days a week, 360 days the first year. And that was partly because I had to, but
Yeah.
also partly because I was formulating a brand new business and I wanted to really steer the ship and control all the pieces. And
Mhm.
at some point it just gets A, too big for me to do it all myself, but B, I don't, I much prefer to hire people now who are smarter than me.
Mhm.
And I trust them to make good decisions. And certainly I'm available for a backup question. But my marketing manager is way better at marketing than I am. And even writing Yelp, responses, right? Like you're
Yeah.
way better at that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the stuff to those who are really good at it to do it.
Yeah.
So I think having a good team that hire smart, like hire people that are smarter than you,
Hmm.
is a big thing. And then now, like with the couple new businesses that there's definitely more strategy, right?
Okay.
There's more
Yeah.
strategy involved. And
Hmm.
if you told me a year ago I was going to launch a couple online businesses, I would have been like, of what? But the idea, once the ideas came up, I love the idea of learning something new and digging into it. And I think that's been as much of the fulfillment as what the project's going to end up being.
Hmm.
And then deciding that this is, like you said, this is not my only good idea I'm ever going to have. So it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be like it is in itself, in a sense, an invention, right? Because it's a brand new thing.
Hmm.
But it's probably not going to be the only good idea I ever have. So I'm going to try to not be so married to it
Yeah.
that I stifle it.
Yeah.
Like I hope to use that as kind of a platform for other things. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a hard question because I could change my mind tomorrow about what It would be like, you said you weren't going to do X, Y, Z. I mean, I value I've got, as I've aged, I really value a routine, right? So, and finding a routine that works for my life mixed with my family, with my business. Like, I actually am smarter and can reply to emails and all better in the morning. But if I come straight to work in the morning, then I don't leave all day, and then I have zero time alone at home because I get kids, and I'm not as nice of a person. So like, I have to give up some things, and it's my brain power a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I really value my, coffee time in the morning, and, crawling back in my bed, and I'm happy to look at emails if I can look at a view at the same time. And I piece together a lot of hours, but they're not in a consistent, super organized, very functional. I mean, I would probably be banned off of all of the high functioning, block scheduling, being super organized by it. I just don't run that way. And so instead of trying to, force myself to do it, I do what feels good. Yeah. And right now, this is what feels good. And if it doesn't, and when I go, oh, look, I want to scale this business so that I can have more free time for something else, I go, okay, let's look at those options and see where I'm willing to give up some of that freedom. But if you had some new thing that came up right now and was like, hey, it's every day at 7 a.m. to something, I don't know that I care enough to make that happen.
Well, I love the flexibility. I hope everybody is picking up on that there is I'm going to try it, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make a quick assessment or a quicker assessment. I'm going to stay bogged down in it. And what I feel like you do so well, Alicia, is that you have a clear vision of the result of what you're going for, but you're very open-handed to the how. Like, I know what I want to do, but the how could be this, it could be that, it could be very structured, it could be very unstructured. I think that's a flexibility that maybe a lot of people early stage don't quite have yet. And I also want to key in on something that you're saying. You're starting your businesses early on, especially the training and the boarding and daycare business, 7 days a week. The whole fake it till you make it is just not even possible, because that leaves people, I think, feeling weird inside, disingenuous. They feel like frauds because to some extent they are just talking out of the atmosphere. Yeah. And it's like, no, it actually does take the work. And I think that one of the things I admire most about you is that you have the ability to really drive for results, but you also have like an open-handedness enough to kind of balance that. I don't know if you kind of call it the power with the connection. There's the powerfulness, there's the assertiveness that gets things done, but not at the expense of connecting with people. Like, I've seen you 100 times with staff, whether they're managers or they're entry level. And one thing that I always see when you're communicating with people is you're 100% there with them. Now, not for an hour, and it may only be 30 seconds actually, or a minute. But that minute is all of Alicia. How do you cultivate something like that? How do you account for your ability to do that? Or as you just hear me say that about you, not to put you too much on the spot, but you do that. I think
I appreciate that. I don't do it perfectly all the time. I'll tell you, I catch myself not doing that, and it is important to me. But then I'll get too comfortable and be trying to reply to a text message while I'm trying to have a meeting, or it's just a matter of practicing some level of awareness around it. I guess that's what it is having some awareness. And I don't think it came naturally to me. I think I had to. I'm in my brain a lot. I'm in my head a lot. There's constant and not in a worry way. Like, I'm not super anxious. It takes a lot to get me worried about something, but in just ideas and checklists and things are going on. And it's really easy for me to just walk by people without saying hello or to do stuff. So I have to purposely say hi and ask a question and connect. Otherwise, days go by, weeks go by. People start to think you're mad at them, even though you're not, because you're just in your head. Right. So, I think I fall into that same challenge that most people do, which is, how do I not get stuck in my phone and different things? I am not I'm definitely addicted to it. My kids would argue with you about that fact, really.
Yeah.
And I still try to be present, right? So I
Mhm.
think it's just trying to find some awareness around it and doing a little bit better than I did before, because I'm
Yeah.
definitely not going to not going to be perfect at it. And I actually care. I do care. I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
curious about other
Yeah.
people's lives, and I do want to hear about what happened over the weekend, and if they're having an issue with their dog, or if I'm somewhere that isn't even work related and they find out I'm the dog lady, people come up and go, "Can I ask you?" Absolutely, I want to hear the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
I'm nosy about it. I like all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I like people. So I,
Yeah.
I like to, I do want to engage and not be stuck in my head all the time is the goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, kind of as we're kind of land the plane here, you've done some pretty amazing things, not only as an entrepreneur and as a mom, but a bunch of competitions and a bunch of go and show
Oh
and
yeah.
do things. Africa, maybe tell us a little
Oh,
bit more about
Africa.
that side of your life.
Ugh.
That's not just the business person, but
Yeah.
some of that side, some high points that you might want to share.
Well, I spent a good couple of years before COVID catching up on years of not traveling because I had little kids, and there just isn't feasible to do, and I married and had kids young. So my 20s plus, and then 6 years of this business, took up all of my non-work,
Hmm.
personal time, all of my personal. There was really no time for much personal stuff going on. So
Hmm.
I spent a few years catching up and went to really neat places, including Africa. That was pretty great, and got to see a bunch of the world. And I think I think everybody should travel if they're drawn towards it, right? And see what it feels like. But there's something about going somewhere and not knowing where you're going to stay and figuring it out and having the plans change, and you know that make that grow you as a human a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
and seeing how other people live is fascinating. And getting to travel, I got to travel a lot with the showing dogs. I still do that, but not quite as much as I did before. But it's a neat thing to be in a circle of like-minded people, and everybody's got similar goals. And
Mhm.
if you got to find your crazy.
Yeah.
And for
Right.
me, it's dog people. I
Yeah.
purposely scheduled the barking dog outside my window for my meeting today.
Don't worry about it. I
Sassy.
can't even hear it. So, but it
Oh,
would have
he's
fit. It
there.
would have fit right in anyway. It would have been
Yeah, there's
perfect. Yeah.
constant barking going on in whether it's real or not in the background. So,
Yeah.
I think I just like to be busy. I'm one of those, they say if you need something done, give it to a busy person. And I think that's kind
Yeah.
of true. If
Yeah.
if my plate gets a little bit not full enough, I will come up with some idea of something else that needs to be done, or get a new puppy. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
who gets got my first staffy when I was pregnant with my youngest. Let's have a
Mhm.
baby and a puppy together. It'll
Yeah.
be great.
Because
Said nobody
what else are
ever.
you going to do? Come on.
What else are you gonna do? So I love all that stuff. I love raising puppies and coordinating new families, and problem solving, obedience things. And I'm just a busy minded person, and this, feeds my soul a little bit, mixed
Yeah.
with, but I haven't been anywhere. Well, I've been a few places, but I don't have any huge trips on the list.
Mhm.
This year's gonna be the, you know, get a bunch of business done year, I think. And
Yeah.
then I'll probably squeeze in some long weekend somewhere.
You have to. You have to for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for being on the podcast. It's awesome. I have
Oh,
such
thanks for
admiration
having me.
for you. Yeah. And just as a business owner who's like you said, you said a couple of times about just cultivating self-awareness, and just kind of like, oh, hey, I kind of do that. And I would just say to everybody listening, whether you wind up ever working with us at Founders Fire or anyone else, that skill is really going to serve you for your whole life arc. Your whole trajectory is really that moment to pause and go, huh, maybe I should look at that a little bit. Maybe I should learn from that. Or hey, what about this? This is a time to hand something off. You shared that, just finding people who are better at certain things and just letting them run with it, within boundaries, of course, is I think it's something common to all entrepreneurs, and certainly something that you do really well.
Well, that's
I
why
think,
you get a coach, right? Sorry
come
to
on.
interrupt you, but that is why you get a coach. It's like the cheat code, right? The quick bypass of having to figure it all out yourself
Yeah.
is find somebody who's done it 1,000 times, before you, and just do what they tell you to do. And and it
Well,
it, it
if
did. I
only,
mean, it massively, increased our business and our business awareness by having somebody, you actually specifically, right? Come in and go, yeah, you could do it that way, or here's what the other 20 people I worked with did instead that worked better. And I'm like, all right, I'll take better. Better works. Let's it's like the cliff notes, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't need to reinvent this business wheel. It's
right.
been done. And that's why I can kind of take this business model and even parlay it into a completely different type of business, is just because it's human connection, it's management, it's all the same things, it's
Mhm.
sales, it's all the same things. It's just, laid out a little bit differently in different actual businesses.
Yeah, it's a fun game to play, and it's certainly been fun playing it with you. So obviously learned a ton from what you shared today. I know people are going to be inspired by that. If you haven't made your way to Northern California, check out Canine Activity Club. It's an
Always give you
amazing
a tour.
business. Yep, and if you got dog questions, she already just laid it out there for you. So
Ah,
yeah, that we try not to get you
happy to
buried
help.
any more than you
Happy to
are,
help.
but yeah, and you're just world-class advice and a great person. So Alicia, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Great chatting with you today.
Appreciate you.